What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday edition of the Stochastic NHL Strategy Show. I am your host, Josh Harris. Joining me, as always, got another cool Simpsons shirt on. Slim Cliffy, how we doing today?
Not too bad. I was going through my dresser like this morning. I was like, I have more Simpsons shirts than a 37-year-old man should probably have. I don't know, whatever. Just wear for today. It's like plus 4 degrees Celsius here, which would be like 40 in bright sunshine. Like it's just a nice day. It feels like a mid-March day. So kind of enjoyable. You know what wasn't enjoyable was that Flyers Canadiens game last night. One thing I've been saying on this show, like, you know, I'm a Montreal Canadiens fan. I'm fully aware that they're a bad team and knew that they'd be bad this year. But at least they've been entertaining pretty much the entire season. Like their games have been entertaining. That game last night was not entertaining. Like the overtime, like fine 3-on-3, that was, you know, kind of back and forth. The three regular periods, like holy God, man! Like I eventually just brought up wrestling on my main screen and dropped the Flyers Canadiens game down to my secondary one because it was painful. Probably just the matchup of the teams. Montreal has a bunch of injuries. Flyers really good defensively. Just wasn't a whole lot going on, but no, I'm excited for this slate here tonight. There's a few like pretty big smash spots that are drawing some ownership. Montreal is on the slate again, and they're oddly enough in a matchup against the worst team in the league, which is kind of fun for a back-to-back for the Habs. So kind of looking forward to this. Wish they'd space out the games a little bit better than give us 3 last night and 13 tonight, and I think 2 tomorrow. I haven't checked. Wish they'd space that out better, but looking forward to this slate overall.
Yeah, I like this slate. 7 of the 13 games are at 7 p.m. Eastern. There's only one late game, and it's not the Sharks, which is nice. Primo was not awesome last night. He got a little lucky. Flyers hit probably 371 posts by my tracking metrics, eyes per 60. No, but like that game, if that game ended like 6-3 Flyers in regulation, it wouldn't have been surprising.
It probably could have been like a 6-1 game because, you know, that Sabres goal was just a really lucky deflection off a Flyer in front. I mean, those things happen in hockey, but like that, yeah, the Flyers should have just like beat their brains in. Not to say that the Flyers didn't dominate, like they completely dominated that game. I just didn't find it that exciting for what most Habs games are, but good debut for Drysdale anyway. Power play assist, nearly 20 minutes of ice time with 7 defensemen dressed. So it looks like he's primed and ready to go.
Yeah. I mean, Flyers play a it's not just the Flyers, like Tortorella plays a boring brand of hockey. Like that team is built to grind you out in the playoffs and then they run out of gas in the conference finals. You know what I mean? It's classic sports. But this is a good 13 game slate. Lots of large totals. There are some massive road totals here tonight. A lot of, you know, large home totals as well, but there are some big boy road totals that we'll get to, obviously. Just wanted to give a quick shout out to y'all, not from the South, but y'all, for your support. You guys have been supporting us like so good. I don't know what I was expecting, but community really came together and is helping us out a lot. So many of you have signed up through the affiliate link that we share either here in Discord. And this is a big week, you know what I mean? A lot of you guys have monthly memberships that are coming up either like today or tomorrow. If you want to take 2 seconds, cancel your auto renew, click the link, re-sign up through our link, and then set it and forget it. You can renew through the link. That would be greatly appreciated. You guys have been awesome with the super chats, with the affiliate stuff. So truly, truly appreciate it. It's been awesome to see.
Yeah, I was kind of in your boat. Like, you know, when you start doing the affiliate stuff, you never really know how it's going to work out. And I've been honestly blown away by the support from the community. You know, the super chats and YouTube, certainly people clicking through the affiliate links. Just sharing our articles or shows through social media. The support's been really awesome to see, and we certainly appreciate it a lot because, show wouldn't be here without the audience, and the communities is really lifting us up, and it's been awesome. And like it's it's been pretty. It's kind of like feeling the love. It's been pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll be 100% honest. I was a bit skeptical because I've seen some shit in my day, but guys have rallied. Love it. We're here for you guys. I'm here for me too. Like, let's be serious here. This show helps my process out a lot, but like the main reason I do it is for you guys. And yeah, couldn't do it without you. But enough of loving on you guys. Don't want to, there can only be one giant ego here, and that's me, not you. All right. So let's get into this slate. Let's start with the Ducks. Or I don't know. I guess they're the Ducks still. Anaheim Ducks, they 2.4 total. Heading into Carolina, the Hurricanes have a 4.1 total. 4.1. Trevor Zegras out for a month or about a month. They said he's week to week or he's going to be out a while. Before, just real quick, Andrew with an $18.18 super chat. Tim Stutzel of fan club membership fees. Yeah, I forgot to send the bill. We were starting Revolution, but I forgot to pin the I messed that up, man. Going Thor Ragnarok. Forgot to print the pamphlets, but thank you very much for the super chat. Truly appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that super chat. Those things really do help us out. It is the Tim Stutzel fan club here. Josh is the president. I'm certainly we'll go with CFO of the Tim Stutzel fan club. I'll handle all fan club fees, but thanks a lot. Interesting to see what Stutzel can do tonight. We'll get to that game next. Pretty interesting matchup against Buffalo.
Yeah. Buffalo. Someone just said Olofsson's out too in the chat. We'll check on that. But let's get to this Carolina Ducks game. Zegras is out for a while. They just traded Drysdale. This team's a mess. Like they're definitely going to be better in the year or two going forward. But right now they're a big mess. 4.1 total for the Hurricanes. This is a very, very good power play spot. Svechnikov is alive. He's hitting the net now, and when he hits the net, it goes in. So Aho, Svechnikov, Teravainen definitely in play for me. They do have a bit of negative leverage. 14% projected ownership on a 13-game slate is high, but not as high as you'd expect for a team with a 4.1 total and arguably the best power play spot of the night. Now, Carolina is one of those teams where their defensemen take a boatload of the shots. But Burns' price on DraftKings really isn't wildly prohibitive. So I think it's one of those scenarios you just kind of add them in. But Carolina won for me for sure. Like I kind of like Carolina 3 as a filler. They're 10,500. They're just coming in with an unreal amount of ownership for a filler line, 7.5%. Like I guess it makes sense. You know what I mean? 4.1 total. They're super cheap. Let you fit them in with super expensive stuff. So I don't mind them in a nutshell. It's just ownership. Just be aware if you are using them. On the Anaheim side, like I don't think I'll be getting 10 and 1-3. If I am, like I have issues, which I do, but like that's for another show. If anything in MME, if I'm making 150 lineups and I'm running Fantasy Cruncher and I happen to get Vetrano, McTavish, Killorn organically, like I'll leave them, but I'm not going to go out of my way to stack the Ducks tonight.
Yeah. I actually kind of like that line. They like that McTavish line. They've been fine together in a small sample, 2.7 expected goals for, 67 shot attempts per 60 minutes. Obviously, the defense not really that great. You wouldn't expect that for the Ducks. This is just a brutal spot for it. That's kind of it. And smaller slate, 7-8 game slate. I think I would give it some more consideration on a slate this large, especially single entry 3 max. I don't think there's really any need. Question is what to do on the Carolina side, because Carolina, like they're a team that kind of spreads out the ice time as it is. We'll get to Winnipeg, Chicago later. Something that we've talked about in our Discord over the last few days is top guys against bad teams and what that does to their ice time. Like you've seen it a lot with Connor McDavid in Edmonton over the last 10 games. There have been games where he's only played 17, 18 minutes, where he's normally 21 plus. It's because they don't need him to play that much ice time against bad teams. And I'm wondering if we don't see something like that with Carolina here, where Svechnikov and Aho, maybe they play 16, 17 minutes, but Aho probably won't play 19 to 20. Svechnikov probably won't play 17, 18. That's the one thing that kind of concerns me. Actually, there are two things that kind of concern me. The other is like Svechnikov's not shooting a ton. Like, this is a guy that typically has like amongst the league leaders in shot rates up until this year. Maybe he's still kind of working his way back from injury, but like his uptick of late, I think it's 27 shots in his last 10 games. Like, that's not very Svechnikov-like. And I don't think it's been a while since he's had a shots on goal bonus. So I think there are reasons not to play Carolina 1, but like the ownership's not that extreme. Like, yes, it's negative leverage, but 14% on a slate like this, I don't think it's that bad. I think you can take out Teravainen and put in Seth Jarvis if you want. Like, Jarvis is a guy that, other than Aho, is usually getting the most ice time of any player. So even though he's, quote, on the third line, he's still a guy that gets a lot of ice time. So I think you can do a power play stack of Aho, Svechnikov, Jarvis, especially where Anaheim's taking so many penalties, right? Like, we talked about it on Tuesday's show. Like, Anaheim is the most penalized team in the league over the last couple months, and it's not anywhere close. Like, they're taking nearly 25% more penalties than the next closest team. It's just a massive, massive gap. And what I wrote about in my picks article today, I wrote about Brent Burns. This kind of applies. That picks article is free to read Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, up on Stochastic. Just head on over to the NHL section. What I wrote about with Brent Burns is how much better the Carolina power play is with him. Like 50% more shot attempts since Andrei Svechnikov returned and got moved to the top power play unit. They're scoring way, way too much. Like, they're shooting the power play shooting percentage up near 30%. But even if it was half that, like, they would still be an elite power play because of how many shots that they're generating. So this is an elite power play in a spot where they might get a lot of power play opportunities. So, yeah, I really do like Carolina 1. Like I said, if you want to leave off Teravainen and put on Jarvis or Bunting or something like that, I think that's perfectly fine. But it is like the Carolina top power play guys I really like here. I don't want to preclude like Carolina's second power play either, especially if they do end up getting a little bit more ice time because they're kind of beating the brains out of the opponent. So like I don't mind like a Kotkaniemi, like Teravainen 2-man, which is somewhat cheap, even though Kotkaniemi's ice time is down. Like, it might go up in a game like this. So it's just it's really the Carolina top power play guys that I like best. But I think if you're playing a lot of lineups, like looking at the secondary guys is fairly important as well.
Yep. Just went to go look to see if Victor Olofsson out. I saw in an article that he's sick and he's probably out, and Kyle Okposo is returning tonight. So I guess Olofsson was a placeholder. For whom?
I mean, I would guess it's Zach Benson that goes up. I guess we'll find out. I mean, the nice thing is this is an early start, right? So you can make the swap at lineup lock.
Yep. So let's get to that game. Ottawa Senators with a 3.3 total heading into Buffalo. The Sabres have a 3.6, 7 over under in this game. There's going to be goals. And our favorite son, Josh Norris, is out tonight. He's in the naughty corner. No, fuck that guy. He is hurt. So Ridley Greig is up on the top line with Brady Tkachuk and Matthew Joseph. The second line is Timmy Stützle. Oh, wait, no, it's not Matthew Joseph, right? Wait.
No, it's Giroux.
Yeah, Giroux. And the second line is Parker Kelly, Tim Stützle, and Drake Batherson. Right? Yeah. Parker Kelly, baby. Top 6 Parker Kelly. This game is interesting. Well, one, Victor Olofsson's out, so it's probably going to be Zach Benson. I don't think that changes much on the defensive side. They're both probably not great defensive players. At this point in Benson's career, I think he's about the same as Olofsson offensively, but I don't know. Like, Thompson, Tuck, Benson, if it is, does interest me a little bit. The ownership with Olofsson there was double their top 2, which is a bit worrisome. So, like, I don't have an issue going to Cousins, Peterka, Quinn here. It's probably my favorite line on Buffalo, regardless of who's in Olofsson's spot. They do have a little bit of negative leverage, but they're only 12,700, and it's only a little bit of negative leverage. Any decent, cheap filler line is going to have negative leverage. It's just what it's going to be. It's not going to be as egregious as the Stahl line here tonight, so I don't mind Cousins, Peterka, Quinn. I don't know who's going to take Skinner's spot on the power play. I think it could be Cousins, it could be Peterka, it could be Benson. Hopefully it's Peterka. So I like Buffalo too here. On the Ottawa side, you're talking to me before the show about Grieg, and I'll let you talk about him. I don't mind Ridley, Grieg, Kachuk, Giroux here. It is the Sabres, right? They're not very good defensively. Goalies have been up and down all season. I kind of have some interest in that Ottawa top line. They have a 3.3 road total, which is one of the higher road totals on the slate. So I think by default, you kind of have to consider them. Not that like Vegas totals are, church gospel here, but like they're expecting goals in this game. I kind of like that top line.
Yeah. I'm out on Ottawa too. It's funny. I wrote them up with the old lines for the picks article today. Parker Kelly just he does absolutely nothing for me. He's just not a good offensive player. I don't know what to say. He's not a guy that should be playing with Tim Stützle. Unless it's like a defensive zone face-off with 30 seconds left in the game or something like that. He should never be on the ice with Tim Stützle. Put him on the slander list. Clayton, sorry about that Parker Kelly, but he just shouldn't. It is a top line for Ottawa that I would have interest in now. What we were talking about before the show was Grieg has 26 games played this year, 20 games last year. So it's two small samples, but it's over 2 different years. And in those 46 games that he's played, he is third on the Ottawa Senators amongst the regular forwards in expected goals impact. The only guys that have been higher have been Kachuk and Giroux. Now, I'm not saying he's better than Stützle or anything like that. There are other skills that come into play to creating and preventing goals. What I am saying is that I feel like he's a better player than Josh Norris, flat out. And when you take a guy like Norris out of the lineup, like I'm going to slander him again. Here we go. He's not even playing. When you take a guy like Norris out of the lineup, it has a sort of cascade effect, right? Because if he's in the lineup and you're getting buried in the defensive zone every game, which is what was happening, Kachuk and Norris in 100 minutes under Jacques Martin as a coach, 4.5 expected goals against per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. That's literally twice as bad as the league average. Worse than that. They were atrocious. And when that happens, you're often pinned in your defensive zone. And if you get a face-off, the next line out is starting in the defensive zone. And it's that kind of cascade that can affect the whole team. And if you replace Norris with Grieg, and Grieg can actually play competent two-way play, that changes things not only for that line, but for the lines that come after them. So I'm really interested to see how Ottawa looks here tonight. It is the top line that I do like. Ridley Grieg, like I said, decent play driving numbers. Good play driving numbers actually in his 2 years. Very small sample playmaking, but decent playmaking metrics or tracking metrics so far this year. So I do have interest in that top line of Kachuk, Grieg, and Giroux. The line I like most in this game is the Buffalo second line. You were talking about their negative leverage, 1.3% top 2 stack, 4.3% ownership. I wrote up JJ Peterka in the picks article today. I think he goes to the top power play unit. And the reason I think that is because Skinner missed 3 games back in the middle of December. And in those 3 games, it was Peterka that got moved to the top power play unit to replace him. 2 reasons for that. 1, they both play the circles on the power play, so it's the same power play spot. And 2, they're both left-handed shots. So you have 2 guys that play the same position on the power play, 2 guys that both shoot the same way, whereas Dylan Cousins is a right-handed shot. So that's why I think it's going to be Peterka. Maybe it's Jack Quinn. We're not 100%, but this is just an educated guess. But I think it's going to be Peterka on the top power play. So now all of a sudden you have a guy on the top power play unit. That Buffalo second line has been really, really good since Jack Quinn got back. 19% more shots at 5-on-5 with Quinn on the line. The Senators have just been a dumpster fire since Jacques Martin took over as coach. 31st by expected goals against in the 10 games with Martin behind the bench. 30th by actual goals against per 60 minutes of 5-on-5. Peterka has 15 shots in his last 5 games, so he started shooting the puck a little bit more. I really like Buffalo too here the most of any lines. I think they make a really good filler here tonight, even if they are 3, 4, 5% or whatever. The Sens just look like a horror show right now. I'm wondering how long it is until Martin gets fired, even though he was just hired less than a month ago. But I will say I think there's probably going to be pretty low ownership on Ottawa 1. Buffalo's penalty kill has been horrific in its own right. So I don't mind, at least considering Ottawa 1, but it's Buffalo 2 I like best in this game.
Yeah, like the ideal top line for Ottawa for me would be Tkachuk, Stützle, Giroux. But like everyone, I remember when Ridley Greig got called up last year, everyone was running out to play that shiny new toy. It's not that bad. People still play Norris. So like,
I mean, Greig has 22 points in 46 games in his career. Like that's not, nothing like outstanding. It's around a 40-point pace. But only 2 of those 22 points are on the power play, and he's averaged under 14 minutes a game. Like his even strength production's been pretty good. So I'm interested to see how he does here tonight, because I think he's the team's second best center. We'll find out.
Oh yeah, I agree. That Norris contract is abysmal. He should get bought out. But anyway, I'm not the GM. We are a team. Los Angeles Kings with a 2.8 total heading into Florida. The Panthers have a 3.2 total. No ownership in this game outside of the Florida second line here, Tkachuk, Verhaeghe, Bennett. Tkachuk has awoken from his early season slumbers. He is just going nuts now. He had a 5-point game the other night. I think he had 53. Yeah, it was 53 DraftKings points at like 8% ownership. Just absolutely nuked. The Blues. This is a bit of a tougher matchup. I like that Pierre-Luc Dubois is now back between Kaliev and Laferriere, and it's not Blake Lizotte. I don't know why they did that, but the Kings lines are back to what they were. I don't mind taking a flyer here on Florida too. I don't know if I'm going to get there in single entry. I'm going to consider them. They're 17,900. Like Verhaeghe Tkachuk is just one of the most lethal duos in the NHL. Bennett's not a third wheel by any stretch of the imagination. It kind of sucks he's not on the power play, but 3.8 percent projected ownership, a little bit of positive leverage. It is a bit of a tougher matchup here. I think it's more of an MME play. On the Kings side, I think this is one of the more brutal matchups in the NHL, which is kind of crazy to say, because last year you're like, man, we got to attack Florida. They're a high-paced team. Bob has been awful. They're not great defensively. Now they're really good defensively. Their penalty kill is great. Barkov, Reinhart, Rodriguez is an absolute meat grinder at both ends of the ice. So, if anything, it would probably be more Fiala-Deneau or Dubois, Kaliev, Laferriere. But, that's kind of just I'm going to run 150 lineups, and if Fantasy Cruncher gives me 2%, I'll play it. You know what I mean? So, not much interest in this game.
Yeah. I think Los Angeles 2 is fine to play. They've still been creating a lot of goals. When the lines were split up, it wasn't because of this line. It was because the top lines, their offense had dried up. I mean, the second line over the last 10 games, the Deneau line, 3.5 expected goals for, 3.4 actual goals for per 60 minutes. Kevin Fiala, 18 shots his last 5 games. His shot rate had been a problem for a while. If he starts shooting more, that line all of a sudden has another dual threat dimension to it. I don't mind playing, considering Los Angeles 2. I think it's Los Angeles 3 that I like best. I agree with you with Dubois and Kaliev. They actually have good, pretty good expected goals numbers so far this season. The big thing is that that Florida third line is just not good, at all. They're the worst defensive line by a mile that Florida has. They're probably Los Angeles' third line is probably going to see a fair bit of that matchup. Kaliev and Dubois, 130 minutes together, 4.4 expected goals per 60 minutes, over 40 shots on goal per 60 minutes. They're just not finishing. And if they start finishing, they're a great third scoring line. I think it's a fine matchup against Florida too. I think you can leave off it feels like bad to say, but I think you can leave off Laferriere. He's really reminding me of like Mikey Esamont, where there are games where he'll have like 3, 4, 5 shots on goal, but just never score. Like he's a guy that is really developing a reputation for low shooting percentages. But like a Dubois Kaliev 2-man to get to the more expensive spots like, you know, Edmonton or Vancouver or whomever later on this slate, I think is perfectly fine. Florida 2, like going back to Florida 2 would probably be where I would go. They had been creating a lot of expected goals. It's just that the goals have finally started to come along. Like Tkachuk, 6 goals, 18 points his last 10 games, or 12 games. Like he's really finding that next gear here. So with the way that they're playing, you know, you get Tkachuk and Verhaeghe on the same power play unit together. It is Florida 2. I'm going to be honest, I don't have a ton of interest in stacking either side here. Like, I know the Kings are on a slide right now, but their 6-game losing streak, they've allowed 3 goals, 2 goals, 3 goals, 3 goals, 3 goals, 2 goals. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not getting blown out. They're not giving up like 6 goals or anything like that. This is still a really, really good defensive team. They're just having trouble scoring. Like, that's kind of the problem. It's not the defense. So, I don't have a ton of interest in stacking in single entries. It would be Florida 2, Los Angeles 3. I think Los Angeles 3 2-man is fine. But I'm not completely sold on stacking out of this game yet.
Yeah, me either. I think like you said, a Kaliev 1-off or a 2-man with Dubois is completely acceptable here. Got another $50 super chat from Mark Brandon 0328. Thank you very much. Hola, mis amigos. Buenas noches. Great call Tuesday night with Matt Tkachuk. Wait, that was me. Matty did get the Hattie, and Daddy had it at a cool 75-1. Thank you guys. Super appreciate your hard work. So you super chatted us to tell us that you called the Tkachuk hat. You're the man. I appreciate it. Thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, like that's an all-time flex. Like I like you have to like completely respect that. Great call on the hat trick. Congrats on the big hit. And yeah, we certainly do appreciate a $50 super chat. That's very generous. Hopefully you can smash another 75-1 hat trick pick here tonight.
Yeah, and I didn't even have to curse this time. Usually I'm dropping F-bombs in your super chats. But thank you guys. All right, thank you, Mark, very much. Let's move on to the next game here. Edmonton Oilers with a 3.9 total heading into Detroit. The Wings have a 3 total. Only team with a higher top 2 stack percentage tonight than Edmonton 1 is Tampa Bay's top line. Tampa Bay's top line has more than twice the projected ownership of Edmonton 1 here tonight. For some reason, well, I get the reason. They're expensive. They're coming in at 6% projected. And I don't know, like it's a mental thing, right? You see Zach Hyman 8% or 8,100. I mean, like that's really expensive for Zach Hyman, but he's having an unbelievable season. This is a great matchup. Detroit sucks defensively. Their penalty kill's bad. It's McDavid at lowish ownership. I'm not sure what else I need to say here, what not to like here. If you want to go to that second line, like Draisaitl, Fogle have been nitrous. Like their 5-on-5 numbers are actually bonkers. Like if this was a top line on a team that didn't have McDavid, like we'd be running out to play them tonight. Draisaitl, Fogle, McLeod. Like you don't have to play McLeod. You can add McLeod. I don't know. You can do something like McDavid, Draisaitl, Fogle. I don't know. Like I like Edmonton too as well. Kind of feels bad not having McDavid in an Edmonton stack, so I'll probably just rally around the power play guys, but I don't mind Edmonton too. Detroit side's a bit interesting here because they're only coming in with, they're like being projected almost no one playing them. Like literally no one playing them, 0.1%. And like it's not like Edmonton is a good defensive team. Stewie Skinner has been a bit better recently, but like Larkin, Raymond, Perron at 0.1% at 16,800. Like, I think you can take a stab, even if you're making like 5 lineups. The more lineups you make, I think I'd have a little bit of Detroit here. They have a 3 total. No one's playing them. They're not overly expensive. So, like, I don't mind Detroit here at the ownership. But for me, this is Edmonton game.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote up Zach Hyman in the picks article, so yeah, it's an Edmonton game for me. I always talk about how when lines stay together for a while, which this line has for like basically 2 months now, I like to just kind of check out to see how they're doing. I mean, they're still their last 4 weeks, 4.2 expected goals, 4.3 actual goals per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. Zach Hyman has 9 goals and 45 shots in his last 11 games. And it feels like he's slowed down a little bit, and he's still averaging over 4 shots per game with 9 goals in 11 games. It's crazy what they're doing. I have no matchup concerns on the Detroit side whatsoever. This is a bad defensive team. I don't think that gets talked about enough with the Red Wings. Like, David Perron is having just an awful, awful season. Like, he looks like Andrew Kopp did last year. It kind of sucks because Perron's been like one of my favorite players to watch over like the last 15 years. Maybe that like this is kind of the end of the road for him, but like it's not just his defensive metrics that look awful. It's like even like his playmaking and his shot metrics are terrible this year. Like, it's really surprising to see him on the top line. Like, I get they're kind of trying to like maybe get him going, but him and Larkin together this year, 68 shot attempts, 3.1 expected goals against per 60 minutes of 5-on-5 when they're on the ice, 4.9 actual goals against. Like, they're just getting buried defensively. If that's the matchup McDavid is going to face, like, I really do like the McDavid side, obviously. So I do really like Edmonton 1 here. I'm not that worried about ownership or anything like that. I think there are enough cheap filler spots on a slate this big that you can go to. I like Edmonton 1 is straight just one of my favorite lines on the entire slate here tonight. On the Detroit side, I think it would be Detroit 2 that I would go to, Comfort, DeBrincat, Kane. The reason I say that is because you were talking about how good the Draisaitl line has been offensively, and they have been really, really good offensively. It's just they're kind of trading chances back and forth, whereas the McDavid line has been actually better shut down defensively. I think that's got something to do with the defenseman that they're playing with as well. But the Detroit second line has like kind of bad offensive numbers together, but the Edmonton second line is also at 3.1 expected goals against per 60 minutes. Like, that's like well below average defensively. It's like 25% worse than the league average. So I think it's Detroit 2 I would play here. You were talking about the low ownership on Detroit. It is really low ownership on Detroit, 0.1% across the board on all their lines. That Detroit second line is very, very expensive to stack. That's kind of the one thing that's keeping me away from them, is that I think Edmonton's a little bit of a better defensive team than you're giving them credit for. I think you just like slandering the Edmonton Oilers, which, hey, listen, man, hey, no judgment for me whatsoever. But I think it is like that DeBrincat line going into Leon Draisaitl. And Detroit draws a lot of power plays, 4.7 power play opportunities per game over the last 2 months. Whereas Edmonton gives up a lot of power plays, 3.9 times shorthanded per game over the last 2 months. So, like, Detroit could very easily get 4, 5, 6 power plays here tonight. And if that happens, I want DeBrincat and Kane in my lineup. So Detroit 2 if I was playing that side, but it's Edmonton 1 by a mile that I like best. And they're just one of my favorite lines on the slate.
Yeah, there's nothing better. One of my favorite pastimes is Here Comes the Oiler GIFs. Or GIFs, whatever they're called, when they blow a lead, and it's just great stuff. Maybe that's what it is. San Jose Sharks with a 2.7 total heading into Montreal. The Canadiens have a 3.3 total. This game sucks. Like, this game is just, I'm just happy it's in Montreal, not in San Jose. Because could you imagine if this was a 10:30 p.m. Eastern start of this game? It's like 3:30 a.m. for you in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It's just an absolute scene. And the highest projected own line in this game, or on the slate, is Montreal 1 here. Caulfield, Suzuki, Slafkovsky, 17% projected ownership. Like, I don't know, man. Did we get Sharks lines, by the way? Because while we were on the air, because I went to go looking for it, but I couldn't find them because Quinn said that they're going to make some changes.
Yeah,
I'm kind of wondering.
No, I don't think they had like any official lineup, morning skate. I would suspect that Eklund and Hurdle stay together no matter what else happens, but we're going to have to find out at warm-up.
I'm not sure about that, to be honest with you, because Eklund got benched in the last game. He didn't play the second period, and then he went out on the fourth line. So, like, I don't know what they're going to do, and it's kind of important because, like, Hurdle and Eklund have been good defensively. Like, not great, but good. Couture is not back yet. He is not. But like, I'm looking for reasons to fade Montreal 1 here. I'm just not finding them. That's basically what I'm getting at. They're 15,200, 17% projected ownership. I think that's what would keep me away is, like, do I really want to play the chalkiest line of the night, and that chalkiest line of the night being Montreal, who's on a back-to-back? You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know what to do. And then you get to the second line, Anderson, Gallagher, Evans, they're coming in at 13% projected. Like if you want to one-off Josh Anderson, whatever. Like, I'm not full stacking Jake Evans, Brandon Gallagher, Josh Anderson. In a nutshell, I'm completely fine with Montreal 1. If you are confident you can create a unique lineup, you play Montreal 1, right? I just don't love the idea of the Canadiens tonight. I just don't. And with the Sharks, I need to see lines. This is another 7 p.m. start. I don't know what the lines are going to be. For now, I'll say Hurdle one-off kind of interests me, but other than that, like, eh.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see what the Sharks do. Like, I know they're going full blender, but they've been pretty consistent of leaving Eklund on the top line. This is what I hate about the NHL. Who in the San Jose organization thought this team would be anywhere approaching competitive this season? Like, what would they possibly expect from the roster that they constructed that would make them think that this team had a shot at like an 80-point season or even a 70-point season? It makes me wonder just how competent they are at their jobs. You know what I mean? And I don't say that lightly because, like, I know I like to slander coaches and GMs quite a bit. They usually make the right decisions. What were they thinking would be the outcome of this particular roster where you're like, yeah, we'll put Mike Hoffman on the top line at 35 years old or whatever. Surely that's going to carry us to a potential playoff position or something. Like, what in the world are they thinking? Anyways, I don't have a lot of interest in the Sharks. I just don't. Even with their old line combinations, I didn't, because the only line that was really creating any meaningful offense was the top line with Eklund. And, you know, they might get broken up. And even if they're not, that Suzuki, Caulfield, Slafkovsky line has been really good defensively. And it's just not a spot that I would want to go into. So, you know, I'll say whoever's on the Sharks second line is something that I'd be interested in, but that's as much as I can say right now. On the Montreal side, I will note Raphael Harvey-Pinard might be back in the lineup tonight. Just watch for that at warmups. I know he's with the team. He's been expected to return at some point like this week. And maybe they just didn't want him to play the back-to-back. And, you know, it's San Jose at home. Like, this would be like the game to get him back in the lineup. And if he does, I imagine he goes to the second line and then Gallagher moves down. But that's just kind of something to watch. I think Harvey-Pinard is only 2,500. Yeah, he's only 2,500. Not that Gallagher's expensive or anything like that, but it could be a really cheap Montreal second line in a really good matchup against San Jose. I guess the reason not to play Montreal is just the ownership, right? Like, we talked about that with Minnesota a couple days ago. It's like, do you want to play a 15 to 20% owned line that really isn't like an elite line or anything like that on a slate this big? Like, that's just kind of what it boils down to. And it's not like, you know, it's San Jose. They're not like Los Angeles, but they're somewhat similar to Los Angeles, you know, recently. Other than that 7-1 game against Toronto, like, they typically haven't been getting their brains beat in. It's just that they can't score. You know, if you want to play Montreal 1, like, I think it's fine. Like, I wrote up Cole Caulfield in the picks article today for a reason. That lines up to 2.9 goals per 60 minutes, actual goals over their last 10 games, 55% expected goal share. They should be able to dominate. I'm honestly just kind of waiting to see what Montreal's second line looks like and if Harvey Pinard's in, because he's a player that I'm high on. He's kind of like Ridley Greig in that sense, where he's had 2 small samples in 2 different years, but those 2 small samples have both been pretty good. And I'm kind of waiting to see what Montreal's second line looks like. So I think I'd be more interested in a Montreal second line if Harvey Pinard's in the lineup. On the San Jose side, like I don't care. Like, fuck that team.
On Harvey Pinard, like at min price, perfectly acceptable, right? The issue I had with Harvey Pinard last year when he was like 5,300, he just didn't shoot the puck enough. It was going in, but like he just wasn't shooting enough. 2,500 in this matchup, yes, please.
Yeah.
As we mentioned at the top of the show, thank you guys so much for the support. By going through the affiliate link, it doesn't even have to be for NHL. It could be for any membership, any sport. If you are looking to get into MMA or something like that, the season starts this Saturday. We have projections, we have Discord, all that jazz. You're an esports guy, you want to go pew, pew, pew at 4 a.m. watching some Chinese League of Legends, it's for you. You can do NHL, you can do NBA, any sport. You can do PGA lineup generator, anything. You can click that link. You can check it out. Cliffy's going through the stuff in the NHL, top stacks, projections, ownership. You get Discord. You get all that jazz. So click that link that the Stochastic DFS person, it's me, shared. And any sport, any membership. Doesn't even have to be hockey. $20 super chat from Nick. Keep up the good analysis, guys. I was on the Matty Tkachuk line the other day waiting the positive regression. It was another good day. I was on them too. I also had Ryan O'Reilly and Colton Sissons combined for negative 38 points, so it kind of dragged me down, but congrats to you. I saw I think you had was it the night you went nuts? I don't remember, but congrats to you. Hopefully tonight we crush. Another $10 super chat from Ben Benwell for the rare Cliffy H-bomb. And all the awesome content. That's the second one this year. We've been doing shows for 4 years. He has a grand total of 2. And it's both been this year. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's just me cursing because I'm from New Jersey. It's just I have an awful mouth, but 2 for Cliffy in 4 years, and it's been like both on the Sharks.
No, I think the last one was about Lane Lambert and the Islanders.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, when they had their defenseman taking like 47% of the shots or something like that. I was like, what? Anyways. Oh yeah, we're getting to that game next. This should be a good one.
Yeah, that was an elite transition. That's why Cliffy gets the big bucks. Toronto Maple Leafs with 2 of our favorite teams, by the way. Toronto Maple Leafs with a 3.4 total heading into Long Island. That's just completely miserable. The Islanders have a 3.1 total. Pierre Engvall revenge night. Anyone? Probably play like 9 minutes. The Islanders completely blew up their lines, and I don't know what Lane Lambert's doing. Let me see if I can remember them because they're not updated in the top stacks. It's Bo Horvat, Anders Lee, and Oliver Wahlstrom. Second line is Brock Nelson, Simone Holmstrom.
No. Nelson, Engvall, Fashing, and then it's Holmstrom, Palmieri, Barzal.
They're moving Barzal back to center. There's no sample on any of these lines. So I don't know what to expect here. What I do know is the Islanders PK is atrocious. I don't know why it's been so bad either. Maybe Pellick being back helps a little bit, but it's
because the team sucks, Josh.
That's true. That is true. Islanders just suck. The LIE sucks. We should trade Long Island to Portugal for Cristiano Ronaldo, and everyone would be happier. But I don't know. I like the Leafs second line here. Nylander, Tavares, Bertuzzi. They're gonna boo Tavares mercifully. They're just gonna boo the shit out of him for no reason. The team that they saddled him with while he was in Long Island. Yeah, that's why he left. Because that has nothing to do with him being with Toronto. You saddle him with crap, he's going to leave. And living in Long Island sucks. But, like, I don't know. And he's in the twilight of his career, but he's having a great season. Maybe that has something to do with Nylander, but, like, that line has been very, very good. And they're coming in with positive leverage. So I like Toronto 2 here. Toronto 1's fine. Like, Marner's look better. Still sucks, but he looks better. Matthews and Marner, fine. I don't know what to do with the Islanders. Like, these lines make no sense to me. Do you have any idea what you want to do with the Islanders?
Yeah, not play them is one. Like, I don't really have a lot of interest. Like, Lee and Horvat did play a fair bit last year because Barzal was injured for like the last 2 months of the season or 6 weeks of the season or whatever it was after Horvat got traded there. In that time, they were at 3.1 expected goals per 60 minutes without Barzal. The thing is like they weren't scoring 1.3 actual goals. And like Matt Barzal is one of the best playmakers in the NHL. So, you know, if you take him off that line and, you know, I'm a big Oliver Wahlstrom fan. This isn't the season for him. He hasn't been able to get going. Like Wahlstrom cannot come close to replacing Barzal in any way. And if you take a super elite playmaker off that line and put a below average playmaker on that line, I don't know why they would suddenly start scoring a lot more goals. I'll just say in short, I don't have a lot of interest in full stacking anything on the Islanders. Like, I'm not convinced that these lines are going to be staying together all game anyway. I agree. It's the Toronto side that I like best. It is the Tavares line that I like best. 5.4% ownership, 9.8% top 2 stack percentage. They did say Matthew Nyes is going to play. I think he left practice with a small injury yesterday, but he's fine. He's going to play. But Nylander, Tavares, Bertuzzi, like what I wrote about in the picks article about John Tavares was I hadn't realized this until I actually looked at it. The first 14 seasons of his NHL career, he shot at least 10% in all of them. That's incredibly rare. Even Ovechkin, you know, before the season had that one or at least one bad year under Dale Hunter. Tavares is only shooting 8.5% so far this season. You got to think that's going to get a little bit better. 3.7 shots per game, the highest of his career. Like the line is creating 3.8 expected goals per 60 minutes. Like they are just tremendous offensively. I don't see any of the Islanders lines being that good defensively. You know, maybe the second line kind of surprises us, but I doubt it. I think the third line could be good defensively if they get a lot of third and fourth line matchups, but there's no matchup concerns for me for that Toronto second line. You know, if you want to leave off Bertuzzi, I think you can do that, but you know, the Islanders penalty kill is atrocious. As you were mentioning, like bottom 5 in the NHL over the last month by expected goals against, shots against, goals against per 60 minutes, all that. The only thing that's saving them is they don't take a ton of penalties. So it is Toronto 2 I like in this game, and I think that's basically all I like.
Yeah. I went on a rant talking about nothing, and we ended up on the same thing. So, yeah. Vancouver Canucks with a 3.2 total heading into Pittsburgh. The Penguins have a 3.4. No one playing Van 1 again. Why? Like, I don't know. Like, just people play them so I can not have to play them. It's 3 and 4 on the road, but like, and it's not the best matchup, but like, is it? You know what I mean? Like, the Pittsburgh top line has been better defensively with Raquel. They're getting 0.9% projected ownership, the Vancouver top line. They're just an elite line, and like 21.8 still not uber expensive considering what they can do. I don't mind taking stabs on that line. More of a question what to do with Pittsburgh here. I like that top line. It's just, I don't know. Like, Zadorov is back. Their penalty kill has been better with him in. Pittsburgh's power play is a bit better with Raquel, but it's still not great, right? So they're going to see that Pettersson, Miller, Besser line. I think it's the Pittsburgh second line that I'd go to here. Malkin, Rust, O'Connor, 15,300. They're going to get, you know, Kuzmenko, whatever, or like the Blueger Garland Joshua line has been pretty good, but like, if anything on Pittsburgh, I think it would be the Pittsburgh second line. I don't think I'm going to be prioritizing this game in my single entry.
Yeah, this isn't a game where I'm necessarily like there have I think at least 2 of the last 3 games I've been pretty high on Vancouver. I don't think this is necessarily the one. Like on DraftKings, they're $1,900 cheaper than Edmonton's top line. I think I would just rather go find the $1,900 and play Edmonton 1 instead. That's just kind of the way I'm looking at it. By top 2 stack percentage, like Edmonton 1's over 20%. This line is down at 8%. Like I would really just rather go find the extra $2,000 and just downgrade your defenseman or something like that. They have looked tremendous, obviously. I will also mention they're shooting 29% at 5-on-5 as a line. Like even half that rate would be unsustainable. So there's going to be some serious pullback coming eventually. And, with Raquel on the top line in their last 10 games, 2.1 expected goals against, 1.9 actual goals against, and the penalty kill has been very good for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh doesn't take a ton of penalties. They're about league average in that regard. The Vancouver power play has been getting worse. Like this is probably the worst 5-on-5 matchup that Vancouver has had since they reassembled that top line. And I think this is kind of the game. I said I wasn't like on their last game. I think this is the game where I would definitely be hopping off the train and going to other expensive lines. I agree with you. I think it's Pittsburgh too. I do like best. 2.9 expected goals with Rust next to Malkin. That's pretty good. Looking at Drew O'Connor's numbers, like this is a guy that's typically been known for his shot volume in low minutes played. He's been above average by scoring chance assists this season, which is just assisting on teammate scoring chances. And like, I don't mean to say like above average as like a slander. Like he's added a legitimate playmaking dimension to his game. And I think that kind of bodes well for that second line offensively. Especially when you're probably going to go up against that Kuzmenko line, which I don't think is going to be a problem defensively. That Pittsburgh second line, 1.2% ownership, 1.6% top 2 stack percentage. So they're not quite a filler at $15,200. They're a little bit more expensive than that. But if you're not playing like one of the $20,000 or $21,000 lines or something like that, if you're playing 2 of the more mid-priced lines, I think you should be considering Pittsburgh 2 here. But I agree with you. Like in general, this is not a game where I'm prioritizing my stacks.
Yeah. New Jersey Devils with a 3 total heading into Tampa Bay. The Lightning have a 3.6 total. Devils mixed up their lines. Let me see if I can remember them. I forgot to write them down because the top stacks, we have different lines right now. Hischier, Halla, and someone.
Hischier. Why can't I think of it? It's Hischier, Hall, or Mercer. Jeez.
Mercer, right. And then the second line's McLeod, Barat, and Toffoli, which is interesting. That line's interesting to me. It's probably interesting to you as well. You're a McLeod slappy. I mean, for good reason. He's having a good season. It's just weird stacking someone named McLeod. I don't know what it is. Like I have issues that I need to work out, but like stacking McLeod like triggers me for some reason. Anyway, highest top 2 stack percentage of the night is Tampa 1 here. They're $700 cheaper than Edmonton 1. They get the Devils goaltending. There's no Jack Hughes. It is Vitek Vanacek in net. Listen, like we've talked ad nauseum about this trio. Kucherov, Point, Stamkos, elite offensively, fully correlated on the power play. They give it up defensively, but like we're not stacking Tampa to stack New Jersey. Like I don't know what I'm trying to say there. I do really like Tampa Bay. 10.6% projected ownership. I think, gun to my head, I'd play Edmonton 1 over Tampa 1 here, just because they're a little bit lower owned, a little bit more expensive. But like, Devils goaltending is atrocious. No Jack Hughes. The Devils, it's that McLeod line that I'm interested in. Like, people pretend that Tampa is this good defensive team. They're just not. They haven't been. Yeah, they went on this cup run, blah, 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 blah. Vegas, like, just, gobbles them up because of that. I think that McLeod to Foley Brat line is going to be sneaky. I don't know how sneaky. We'll see the top stacks run, but, like, I think they're a good play tonight.
Yeah, I think, like, with Tampa, it's not like they're not awful or anything like that. They're not like an Ottawa or a Columbus or something like that, but they're what, like a middle of the road defensive team, probably, like, certainly by expected goals against. That's what they've been. So like, there's nothing super concerning. If you want to play Tampa 1, like like fill your boots. Like they are creating 3.1 expected goals per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. They've had some trouble finishing. Also noticed none of them are shooting a ton lately. I was looking at, I think it was their last 7 games. None of them above 18 shot attempts per 60 minutes, which would be like a high rate. But Kucherov has been like amongst the league leaders in that regard pretty much the entire year up until this recent couple weeks. Kind of coincides with Mikhail Sergachev exiting the lineup, which, you know, he's a guy that can help generate offense from the blue line. They don't have a ton of guys like that other than Victor Hedman. So makes a little bit of sense to me. So Tampa won, like perfectly fine to play. I have no issue with playing them. It is New Jersey too that I do like best in this game. I agree with you. Michael McLeod, it was one of those things where Michael McLeod was like not a top first round pick, but like I think he was like 11th overall or something like that. Like he expected to play in the NHL. And it's taken him years to get there. I think he's 25 years old now. But his defensive metrics have been great this season. And I was looking at some of his offensive tracking data, like well above average scoring chances, well above average creating scoring chances for his teammates. I think he's kind of an underrated player, especially on a team that has Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier at center. He is like he would be a great third line center on this team if they can get to the playoffs. He has actually played extremely well with Jesper Bratt in 120 minutes together. They're at 3.5 expected goals for, 2.1 against, 3.1 actual goals for. Like, I just think it's going to be a very, very good line. So where they're going to get those second and third lines from Tampa, there's not a whole lot of defensive concerns for me. They are coming in with a little bit of negative leverage, 6.4% ownership to 4.2% top 2 stack percentage. But I think McLeod is kind of an underrated player, and he's going to step in and do real well on that second line, I suspect, if they can leave him there. So it's Brad Toffoli McLeod that I actually, you know, considering price is what I really like in this game. But yeah, Tampa 1 is certainly in play with, you know, no Siegenthaler, no Hamilton, no Hughes, this awful goaltending that they've had pretty much all season. Tampa 1 is certainly in play. I just think New Jersey, too, makes a nice, you know, mid-price stack here tonight.
Yeah, agreed. Do we have to talk about this game? Let's talk about it quickly.
Yeah.
Seattle Kraken with a 2.9 total. Heading into Washington, the Capitals have a 2.7 total. We talked about it quickly. Let's move on. I'm just kidding. But
I would be fine with that.
There's 8 lines in this game. I think they're a combined 1.3% projected ownership. Like, I don't have interest in this game. I just don't. Like, I guess, if anything, I'd play Beniers, Eberle, Tatar as a filler, 10.6K on DraftKings, coming in at 0.4% projected ownership, the highest projected ownership line in this game. Like, if you want to play them as an ownership play, like, you must like watching paint dry. Like, that's how like exciting this game is going to be tonight. Like you can one off Ovechkin here, whatever. Tom Wilson has probably been the Caps' best winger. You can one off him. You can one off like a Bjorkstrand or something. But like, I just don't have interest in this game. There's nothing here for me. I'm going to move on to my single entry. If you happen to get to some in MME, that's fine. But you know, I kind of like the goalies in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ovechkin and Wilson are game time decisions. TJ Oshie is back. Like, we'll mention all that. We said on the last show when they lined up Jared McCann on the fourth line with Andre Burakovsky and Ty Kartye that any of the lines that they play could conceivably get top line minutes in any given game. If you look at the ice time in that Seattle game, they beat Buffalo 5-2. Alex Wennberg got 18:51 in ice time, which that's one of the frustrating parts about stacking this team. Every other forward was within 3.5 minutes of each other. It was like between 12:50 and 16:20. Like, other than Wennberg, no other forward played more than 16:20 in that game. That's why like every Seattle line is basically evenly owned and evenly top 2 stack. Like the Beniers Eberle Tatar line. Tatar's not on a power play. Beniers is on one power play and Eberle is on the other. The Wennberg line, the Wennberg Schwartz Tanev line. Wennberg's on one power play, Schwartz is on another, and Tanev is on neither. Like, that's just kind of the way it goes. They're the Carolina Hurricanes with less talent. Like, that's just kind of the way I look at it. That's kind of how they're running their team. It can be successful in the NHL. Like, I think they're going to get into the playoffs, and they're like being able to roll 4 lines like that in the playoffs, especially when teams might have injuries and might only be able to roll 2 lines and stuff like that, can win you a series or even 2. I just don't think it's any good for DFS. And I'm certainly not playing the Washington Capitals and how bad they are against this line. Like, if anything, like maybe the McMichael line, they've been good at generating offense, 2.9 expected goals for, 3.1 actual goals for, but like, that's it. No, I don't have interest in this game.
Well, me either. Let's talk about a real team, shall we? New York Rangers with a 3.3 total heading into St. Louis. The Blues have a 2.7. Will Cooley up on the top line now with Chris Kreider, Mika Zibanejad. Rangers second line status quo. Blues line status quo. They did mix up their power play units. They took Krug off. They put Colton Parayko on with St. Louis 1 and Jake Neighbors on the top unit. Call me crazy. I do have interest in St. Louis 1 here. They're 16,800. The Rangers have been absolute cheeks defensively. They've just been so bad defensively. Outside of Fox, like Trouba's been atrocious. Lindgren's been bad. Miller's been okay, but like the third pair gets sheltered. You know, they move Blake Wheeler off the top line like it's his fault. Like, yeah, he hasn't been great defensively, but like Will Cooley's not going to really solve those issues. Capo Caco skating. I think he needs to go back to that top line. Whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I have interest in Kyrou Thomas Buchnevich. I do. They do have a tad bit of negative leverage. They're fully correlated. Am I going to get to him in 1 to 3? I don't know. But I do have interest. On the flip side, it's Rangers 2 again. Like, they've just been so good. Trocheck, he's having an unbelievable season. Forecheck, backcheck, Trocheck. Panarin's having a hard-type season. Lafreniere's had a good season. So, yeah, Rangers 2, St. Louis 1 for me.
I will say I'm interested to see how Will Cooley does on the top line. I think he might be a better option than Blake Wheeler at this stage of Blake Wheeler's career.
I mean,
and it's not expected. I mean, let's not go that far. You know how bad my back is. You know, this is one of those options in that 15K price range that is going under owned. Top Stacks tool has them at 1.5% top 2 stack, 1.1% ownership. Like, it is a tougher matchup going into St. Louis's top line, but it's not like I'm terrified of playing lines against the Blues. I think there is merit to playing Rangers 1, but it is Rangers 2 I like best. Like, again, they're going to go up against the depth from St. Louis. The depth from St. Louis, not good. Like, Neighbors and Saad actually have good defensive numbers together, but when you add Brayden Schenn to the mix, they don't. It's just kind of the way it goes. So I do have interest in Rangers 2. It is St. Louis 1 that I do like best in this game. 2.6 expected goals, 3.6 actual goals per 60 minutes since they fired Craig Berube. Like, Robert Thomas, elite scoring chance assist rate. Jordan Kyrou, elite individual scoring chance and scoring chance assist rate this season. Like, I'm waiting for him to pull what a Matt Tkachuk is doing right now, which is put up like 18 points in 10 games with 6 or 7 goals. Like, it's coming eventually. And the interesting thing about the St. Louis top line, I wrote about this elsewhere just before Christmas, but having Jake Neighbors on the top power play unit actually clears out a lot of space for the guys that shoot from the circles. And it actually gets the guys that shoot from the circles closer to the net because they pay pretty close attention to Jake Neighbors when he's playing on the top power play unit, which he is tonight. And I'm wondering, like, the St. Louis power play is still creating a ton of shots, a ton of expected goals. They're just not finishing. And I'm wondering if Jake Neighbors might not be the guy to help him out. Kind of sucks. Colton Parayko's running the power play. I don't think he should be.
Wildly heavy clapper from the point, though.
Yeah, but I want Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas and Buchnevich taking those shots. Even Jake Neighbors, like it. Anyways, I think that Neighbors is going to help out the power play, and I think that's going to help out the top line in turn. So, ownership not too heavy, 7.6%, 6.2% top 2 stack. I really do like St. Louis 1 and Rangers 2 here. Those are 2 lines I am considering in my single entry.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get to the Blues here tonight based on what I think I want to do in my head. But yeah, I've been stacking against the Rangers a bunch recently, and it's been pretty lucrative. Chicago Blackhawks with a 2.1 total heading into Winnipeg. The Jets have a 3.8 total. I'll keep it quick on Chicago. No, thank you. Now, what to do with Winnipeg? Flowchart says just run for the hills and fade, right? But the caveat here, there's not a lot of ownership here. Like, and I don't know why. 3.8% projected ownership at 19,400. Like, I think you got to consider that. Like, it's the Hawks. Their top line is Philip Kurashev, Taylor Radish, and Rem Pitlick. Who? Yeah, exactly. So, like, I think Winnipeg 1's a great play here tonight. If you're worried that this game's going to be a blowout, I think you can go to that second line as well. They're 13,100. Perfidi, Iafallo, Nemestikov. Perfidi's been scoring a bunch. He's been shooting more. I think Winnipeg 2 is perfectly acceptable as a filler here. You can even go to the third line here. Like, I like Nino Niederreiter. Our thoughts on Mason Appleton. I think he's more suited for that third line than the top line. But I think you can go to that third line as well, depending on your build. But like, I do really like Winnipeg 1 here tonight.
Yeah, I wrote up Winnipeg 2 in the picks article, and the reason I did that, it's something like we talked about with Carolina at the top of the show. In Winnipeg's game on Tuesday, they played Columbus. They beat Columbus 5-0. Winnipeg was pretty much in hand the entire game, but the top line didn't play that much, right? Like, Mark Scheifele ended up playing under 15 minutes. Now that was because he was hurt, but Velarde and Ehlers both played, or Velarde played under 16 and Ehlers played under 15 minutes. It was the second and third lines that got a lot more ice time. And I think you're going to see something like that again here tonight, where the top line might play like 15, 16, maybe Scheifele gets like 17 minutes or something like that. But the second and third lines get more ice time. And they do that because they know they should easily be able to beat the Chicago Blackhawks. Like Edmonton, like I said, Edmonton has done it a couple times already this season, especially with all the injuries that Chicago has. So I wrote up Winnipeg 2 in the picks article. I'm worried I'm chasing points because it was Winnipeg 2 that had a pretty good game in the last game. But Winnipeg 2 got a lot more ice time in that game against Columbus. Nemesnikov over 18, Iafallo nearly 18, and Perfidi over 16. They've also been really, really good this year. 2.8 expected goals, 3.6 actual goals per 60 minutes at 5-on-5, controlling 59% of the expected goal share. You get Alex Iafallo on the top power play unit. At like literally no issue playing Winnipeg 1. Like, 2.8% ownership, even if that's like 5% ownership, I think that's perfectly fine. I'm just worried that they're going to kind of mail it in against in a pretty soft matchup, and that the second and third lines are going to get more ice time. So I think it's the Winnipeg depth I like best. No issue going with the third line, but it is the second line. I think I'd rather play Perfidi. I think is the best offensive player on those second and third lines. So Perfidi, Iafallo, and Nemesnikov for me.
Yeah, I agree there. I was looking down. I was going to try to find some Arizona Coyotes lines. That is a tough exercise on the Twitter.com. They don't have beat writers. But let's talk about that game. Calgary Flames, the 3.1 total. Heading into Arizona, the Coyotes have a 2.9. The reason I wanted to go look for Arizona lines is, one, they mixed them up last game. But two, Jason Zucker is back after his suspension, and they sent Justin Kirkland down.
Yeah, Zucker, it looks like Zucker's on the third line. I think it was with Cooley and Genther this morning.
So are they going to move Bukestad back with their guys and move Kerfoot to the fourth line? Or McBain to the fourth line?
Yeah, no, McBain. I think McBain was still on the top line. Let me go look this up very quickly.
I'll talk about some stuff.
Yeah, they still had Keller, McBain, Schmaltz on the top line, and yeah, they put together Michelli, Bukestad, and Krause, and then Zucker, Cooley, and Genther. So Kerfoot down to the fourth line.
Okay, don't mind that. I think we have to start considering the Flames now. Maybe. Maybe. They have a 3.1 road total here. Arizona takes a fair amount of penalties, and by fair, I mean a boatload. Like, just play Connor Zary more, please. I beg you, so I can play more Kadri, Zary, Pospisil. Like, I don't want to play Lindholm, Sharon, Govich, Huberdeau, but like, I'm starting to be like, you know what? Like, these guys at least play more than 8 minutes. 14,500. They have a little bit of positive leverage. I don't mind Lindholm, Sharon, Govich, Huberdeau. I also like Kadri, Zary, Pospisil. Like, if you want to just one off Kadri, if you're worried about the other guys' minutes, I think that's fine. On the Arizona side, Cooley Genther, huh? Like, I think we hit the home run there already, but like, I don't mind that third line. Like, it feels kind of like, oh, you're going back to them after you hit 24 fantasy points on Genther. Like, yeah, the dude's legit. His haircut's whack, but he's legit. Like, Cooley's a good player. We just didn't like him on the top line because he was getting absolutely caved in up there for whatever reason. They're going to avoid. The thing is, like Genther, Cooley, I have interest in. Okay, I'll just say it right there. McBain on the top line, like we were like, oh yeah, I don't think McBain's the guy for Genther, and then they throw him onto the top line after that, and just like, please come back, Barrett Hayton. He's a couple weeks away. So yeah, I don't mind Arizona 2, don't mind Arizona 3, but it is Calgary that I like better in this game somehow.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they don't go back to Kraus, Machelli, Bjugstad out against top lines, and that would make me kind of interested in Kraus, Machelli, Bjugstad, honestly, because you're going out against the Sharon Govich, Huberdeau line. It's like they're at 3.4 expected goals against for 60 minutes of 5-on-5. Like, they are not good defensively. So Kraus, Machelli, and Bjugstad, like, they have been really, really good all season. Their defense had definitely tailed off, but over 3 expected goals per 60 minutes, well over 3 goals per 60 minutes actually scored. So they have been pretty good. I mean, even going back to last year. So it is Kraus, Machelli, Bjugstad that I would have the most interest in on the Arizona side. I think for Calgary, like, it is frustrating to watch Martin Pospisil skate like 10 minutes a game. It is very frustrating. But it is that line that I kind of like. At least a 2-man of going back to a 2-man of Kadri and Zary. Like, the Arizona penalty kill is a big weakness on this team. They're not taking as many penalties as they were earlier in the season. They've been closer to league average of late. But the penalty kill itself is still very, very bad. Like, they're in the bottom 5 by shots against per 60 minutes over the last 5 weeks. They're in the bottom 5 by expected goals against. They're in the bottom 10 by or fringe bottom 10 by actual goals against. Like, it's Connor Ingram that's been kind of saving them on the penalty kill. So it is Kadri and Zary that I like best on the Calgary side. But Coleman, Backlund, Mangiapane is always interesting to me because they are getting a lot of ice time. Like, Backlund's playing 20, on average 20 minutes a night. Coleman is up to like 18, 19 minutes a game. Like, he's been scoring a lot. So I don't mind Backlund, Coleman, Mangiapane, but I want to take advantage of the top power play and the guys that are there. So it's Kadri and Zary, especially as a 2-man that I like. And I don't mind the Machelli line on the other side.
Yeah. Last game of the night, the only 10 p.m. Eastern start, which is nice. Boston Bruins with a 3.2 total. Heading into Vegas, the Golden Knights have a 2.9. Let me pull this game up. I don't know what I was doing. There we go. Charlie Coyle in between Pasternak and Marchand. Am I reading that correctly?
It was, but they had a morning skate while we were on the ice. They went back to Marchand, Coyle, DeBrusk. Top line of Jesper Bokvist, Zacha, Pasternak.
Wow. Okay. At least Geeky's off the line. Is Jesper Bokvist going to be any better? I don't know. Like, defensively, maybe.
It sucks because Geeky boots James Van Riemsdyk to the 4th line, and I was hoping Van Riemsdyk would be the guy to move up to the top line, but no such luck.
I don't know what to make of these lines. I think, you just going back to Coyle, Marchand, DeBrusk, I think is fine. One-offing Pasternak is always in play. Just like I don't have a ton of interest in this game, even though it's the late hammer and people love playing the late hammer. I don't love this game. Like Vegas has been okay. Boston has been okay. I think I prefer the Boston side here, and it would be like a Pasternak one-off or that second line. Vegas, if you want to play that top line, go ahead. Like I just don't love Vegas here. It would be the Boston side for me.
Yeah, I don't mind going back to that Charlie Coyle line. Like they have been fine offensively. They're probably going to see that Stevenson, Marchessault line. Like Marchessault, that's something we should mention. Marchessault got booted down to the Stevenson line last night. Mark Stone was finished the game with Jack Eichel. I suspect that's what they're going to go back to. That Vegas second line, really bad defensively, below average at least with Marchessault and Stevenson together, 2.6 expected goals against, 3.2 actual goals against. I think that's a fine matchup for Boston too. I'm going to be honest, though, it's Vegas one that's kind of interesting to me here. And the reason for that is over the last 2 months, Vegas is drawing the second or third most power play opportunities per game, while Boston is giving up the third most power play opportunities per game. So this is a Boston team that takes a lot of penalties, and this is a Vegas team that draws a lot of power plays. Now, and Boston's penalty kill hasn't been super elite like it's been in recent seasons. It's been like pretty much middle of the road over those last couple months. So I'm not super high on Boston here. I think Boston 2 is certainly fine to play. It is Vegas one that I like, and they're not coming in with a lot of ownership. 4.1% ownership, 5.9% top 2 stack percentage. That Vegas top line, 4.4 goals per 60 minutes with Mark Stone next to Eichel. Eichel has 3.8 shots per game over his last 10 games. It's Eichel Stone Barbashev that I actually like best here.
Okay. Yeah. I can get behind that. I'm not as high on them as you are. Coming up after us, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, Owner's Box Live with Greg Ehrenberg. Then 6:30 p.m. Eastern, NBA Live Before Lock with Eric Lindquist and Matt Bellman. So make sure to stick around for that if you are interested. Let's talk a little bit about defensemen here. Looking through the top of the board, there isn't many that I truly like. I think the ones that stand out to me are Evan Bouchard, Rasmus Dahlin, Josh Morrissey, and then Morgan Riley. Like I don't have a ton of interest in Quinn Hughes tonight. I mean, he's fine. He's just the most expensive on the board. I think the ones that I mentioned I have more interest in, obviously. Who else you like him?
I mean, Rasmus Dahlin is kind of the guy here. I was looking at his shots and all that. Like since December 1st, he's I think it's top 5 amongst all defensemen in shot rate, and his blocks per minute are basically in the middle of the league. Now, middle of the league is not elite or anything, but middle of the league, when you play 26 minutes a night or whatever, it can lead to a lot of shot blocks. So I think this is a pretty good spot for Dahlin. He's my favorite expensive defenseman. Certainly like Evan Bouchard in that Edmonton matchup. I mean, Mike Matheson, like this is a guy that loves to skate with the puck, and I can't imagine a better spot to do it than at home against the San Jose goddamn Sharks. So don't mind Mike Matheson either. In the mid-price range, I think there's 2 guys like way above the rest, and it's Brent Burns and Victor Hedman. Burns I like better, especially because he's cheaper. Moritz Seider, he's getting a regular power play role now. I don't mind him against Edmonton. He's probably going to have to block a lot of shots, and he might get a lot of power play opportunities as well. Colton Parayko, because he's running the power play for St. Louis, might have to also block a lot of shots here tonight. Radko Gudas got the second most ice time behind Cam Fowler in Anaheim's first game without Jamie Drysdale. So Gudas might have to block a lot of shots against Carolina here tonight. He's a guy that doesn't mind ripping the puck either. For cheap guys, I wrote up Shimon Nemec in the picks article. He leads the team's defensemen in ice time over their last 10 games. This is a rookie that got called up 6 weeks ago. He's been really good for them. Alex Romanoff, certainly for the Islanders. Again, Brady Shea, secondary power play minutes for Carolina in a great power play matchup. I like him as well. Timothy Liljegren, he's been very active for the Leafs. I like him as a cheap play. If you're looking to like go way down, Witherspoon from Boston played, I think, 21 minutes in that game without Brandon Carlo. He played more than Grzelcyk, so Witherspoon at 2,800 is fine. Jaden Struble is getting like 19 minutes a game for Montreal, and he's only 2,500. So I think he's like my full punt, min price punt that I like here. And I'll also mention Zadorov, 2,600. I think he's fun to play just about any time.
Yeah, someone asked about Lucas Cormier. I think he's fine as well. He only played 14 minutes last night, though, so just be aware of that. Let's talk about goalies. Top of the board here, Pyotr Kochetkov at 8,400, Igor Shesterkin, Laurent Brossoit, not Hellebuck tonight. I'll just mention some goalies that I like here. It is Picard in net for Edmonton, by the way, not Stewie. Marty Jones back in net and Dalkovich. Let's see here. Don't mind Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. I just like saying that, but I actually do like him at 7,900 tonight. Joey Decord, the greatest since Dominic Hasek at 7,800. It is Vejmelka in net and not Ingram, but I don't mind that. Like Calgary has been better, but they're more of like a volume compared to like really good dangerous shots. So I don't mind Vejmelka. Darcy Kemper, I guess you got to consider it. Like that is the lowest total game. Thatcher Demko is the one that sticks out to me. It's really the ones that stick out to me are Demko and Decord. But if you really want to spice things up, I think Blackwood and whoever starts for the Ducks are fine.
Yeah, I think Blackwood makes a lot of sense. Like Montreal is not a team that scores a ton of goals here. Like let's get that clear. So I think if you want to pay down, I think Blackwood makes sense. I wrote up Demko in the article, so I agree with you there. Swayman, now that Allmark's hurt, Swayman's probably going to get some regular runs. So I do like Swayman here. I think the expensive goalie I like best is Bobrovsky, honestly. Like the Kings still struggling to score goals, and Bobrovsky's still been like just great this year. So if you're paying up, I think he makes a lot of sense. Ilya Sorokin, obviously at home against Toronto, Sorokin always gets a lot of volume. So I don't mind Sorokin either.
Bobrovsky mentioned. I always forget about Bobrovsky, but you know what? I think it's a good night for the Bob. Who you like him for your hat trick pick?
Wrote him up in the picks article. Probably could see this one coming a mile away, but I'm going with JJ Peterka from Buffalo.
That was the name I had in my head for you. I was not prepared, but I'm going to go. I always forget. No, but I'm going to go against my Rangers. I'm going Pavel Buchnevich.
I mean, it's not a bad spot for him.
And
I know it hurts you. Hey, man, maybe they'll get him at the trade deadline. You never know. It makes sense.
That would be almost as sad as the Devils trading for Blackwood.
which also might happen.
Yeah. But we'll be back on Saturday. There's 2 or 3 games tomorrow. There's a big slate on Saturday. I think it's 12 games for the main slate. If you're interested in going premium, make sure to click the link, the affiliate link that was spammed in the chat today. And you can do it for any sport, any membership. We appreciate the super chats. We appreciate all the support. Thank you guys very much. And we'll see you in Discord. We'll see you at the top of the leaderboards, and we'll see you on Saturday.
Hey, not a bad sign off. Good luck tonight, everybody. And thanks again for the support. Ooh.